After going 27 consecutive innings without scoring a run, tack on 3 more through the front 3 innings. Then the Reds flex their muscles. Suarez, Phillips, and Bird home runs as the Reds even a series against Arizona at 1 game apiece. So we turn the page to this Sunday. We welcome you inside a closed-roofed Chase Field. Rubber game of this series, the Reds taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And hi again, everybody, alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day. I'm Tom Brenneman. Great to have you with us on this late Sunday afternoon back in Reds country. The home run certainly got a lot of pub last night, rightfully so, when you're having a hard time scoring. But a lot of the Diamondbacks people here are talking about these young Reds pitchers they have seen the first 2 games of this series.
Well, we've been talking a lot about them, Tom, and they're worth mentioning again. Raisel Iglesias, 6 innings of 1-run baseball, just the way that Kiva Sampson did last night when he picked up his first major league win. I mean, what I really like is the fact that these guys, when they did get runners on base, they didn't buckle, they didn't give up big numbers in an inning. They went right back to work and they threw the ball where they had to. This gives you a lot to really hope for when you're looking down the road and see arms like this that are maturing on the mound.
And the guy who, of all the rookie pitchers, has been without question the best and most consistent gets the ball today.
Well, he came in with most of the experience of all the guys anyway. There are no innings restrictions on Anthony DeSclafani. The overall numbers this year are a little bit awkward because he has too many walks. But when he controls the pitches where he wants to, like he has his last couple of starts, you saw there, 3 walks, 12 strikeouts, he can be something to really be handled. He throws a heavy ball. I mean, down around the knees. Catchers don't want to catch it. Hitters don't want to hit it. But you've got to get it down there if you're going to keep the ball in the ballpark.
Now you talk about young pitchers. It was only 2 seasons ago. The Diamondbacks starter today, Patrick Corbin, was among the very best before getting injured.
Well, he was an all-star, actually, when he came up originally with the Arizona Diamondbacks. He missed a year and comes back this year. 6 starts. They're still taking him very little along. I mean, he 5 innings at a time. He had a very bad start his last time out because of some rain delays and some weird ways they started the ball game. But I think overall this is a very talented left-hander. He's got a very good breaking ball. Maybe one of the best sliders around when he's got it going right.
All right, when we come back, Jim Day down on the field will bring us up to speed on the hot-hitting Red shortstop. How impressive has Eugenio Suarez been? You're watching Reds baseball on Fox Sports Ohio.
brought to you by Cincinnati USA Regional Tourism Network. Stay close to CincinnatiUSA.com. By Chevy, check out their award-winning lineup only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good? It's Skyline time. Rubber game of a 3-game set here in the desert. I'm Jim Day. Eugenio Suarez continues to impress at the plate at a very young age. This kid only 24 years old, not even with a full year of Major League service time, but it looks like he is a veteran at the plate. Since filling in for Zach Cozart, who's out with the season with a knee injury, Suarez not only riding a 7-game hitting streak, has hit safely in 18 of 19 games, and since July 19th, a .316 batting average. Manager Brian Price, a month or so ago, said Suarez has surprised him at the plate. Now, I asked him today, is he still a surprise?
I still am somewhat surprised just on his adjustability and the subtle adjustments he's made for us in his time here, and I think that's only going to get better. He just turned 24 years old. And the other part is it's not just the power, it's the fact that his overall run production, I've been able to use him to hit and run, and I think we have 2 squeezes where I've used him. He does a lot of things very well, and he wants to be excellent, and I think those are some ingredients that will help him become the best player he can be.
Where will Suarez hit in the lineup? Who's in? Who's out? Tom and Chris have that next. It's the rubber game of a 3-game set. Reds and D-backs on deck on your home for Reds baseball. Fox Sports Ohio.
Series. It is the decisive game of the series. Arizona coming away with a Game 1 win, 2-0 before the Reds behind Sampson, Diaz, Hoover, and Chapman combined on a 5-hitter in a 4-1 victory. Reds lineup brought to you by Meyer. Billy Hamilton, Brandon Phillips, Joey Votto. Marlon Byrd in a cleanup spot today, flipping places with Jay Bruce. Ivan De Jesus for Todd Frazier today, who gets a day off. Latter third of Suarez, Barnhart, and DeSclafani against the left-hander, making just his 7th start, coming all the way back from a Tommy John surgery. Left-hander Patrick Corbin. First pitch to Billy low and away. We're underway.
Corbin makes start number 7 on the year. He is only 25 years old. In fact, he turned 25 just a couple of weeks ago. Young man that missed the entire season last year because of Tommy John surgery. But a young
young pitcher that they are very, very excited about getting back and getting healthy again.
So what does he feature in that repertoire?
Well, he features a fastball that's in the low 90s, but the breaking pitch that you just saw that Billy Hamilton swung through, that's his bread and butter pitch. It's a slider that has been described as one of the best left-handed sliders around when it is on.
Two and two on Hamilton. And it's fouled out of play on a fastball up and away from him. It's pretty good velocity for a guy who's just making, as Chris mentioned, his 7th start. 94 miles per hour on that fastball.
You know, it's kind of funny, Tom. People think that, hey, if Tommy John surgery, you're going to come back throwing harder than you did before, and that is often the case. But it has nothing to do with the actual Tommy John surgery. It has everything to do with the rehab and the protocol that the therapists and the doctors have you on when you're recovering from surgery. So Corbin, who was a low to mid 90s pitcher before, I don't know if he's added anything or not. I'm sure that he'll just get stronger and stronger as he gets more fluid with his delivery, his legs stronger, and kind of back into the rhythm of pitching every 5th day. And it may be a few more starts from that. It's very hard to expect a guy, 12 months from Tommy John surgery to just come back and be what he used to be. And he was an all-star before he was injured.
Brandon Phillips at 284, 8 home runs, 40 runs batted in. Brandon had 2 hits, including a home run last night after going 0 for 4 in the series opening. Final game here, 3 in San Diego starting tomorrow night, and 4 in Los Angeles. 2 Hopper to the shortstop, and Ahmed throws out Brandon. We look at Arizona on defense, a good defensive team. Peralta, Pollock, and Inciarte, that's been their outfield every game this series. The only change is behind the plate. Recently picked up the veteran Jared Salta-Lamacchia, and he is part of the battery with Corbin. Joey Votto, a hitless game last night, 0 for 4. Was 1 for 2 with a pair of walks here on Friday night. So he checks in 306, 19 home runs, 51 batted in, 22 doubles on the year. Votto, remarkably, the pace at which he has been getting on base, especially since the All-Star break. Votto leads the league in walks, 86 of those. Diamondbacks first baseman Goldschmidt right behind him at 84.
And the majority of those walks have come really since June the 1st. I mean, Votto has walked at an unprecedented rate. And the problem that he poses for pitchers is not necessarily, the threat of the long ball if you make a mistake, is that he just doesn't swing at those marginal pitches. And all of a sudden you find yourself one pitch away from delivering a base on balls. You squeeze the pitch a little bit too hard, you miss out of the zone, and he gets another base on balls. And he does that a lot just to keep that bat alive. So a lot of his walks are, 7 or 8 pitch walks, where a pitcher finally throws one out of the zone and he doesn't bite.
Votto third in the league, thanks in large part to those walks, and a batting average just above 300. Third in on base percentage, trailing Bryce Harper and Goldschmidt of these Diamondbacks. Reds pitching has really done a number on the Arizona first baseman in this series so far. Of course, the Diamondbacks will be coming to Cincinnati in a week and a half for a 4-game weekend series. Votto a tapper down to his counterpart, and that's all for the Reds in the first. They're gone in order. Anthony DeSclafani will try and answer Corbin's perfect inning when we return. The coaching staff here a number of years ago before locking up with Bob Melvin up in Oakland. Let's take a look at the starting lineup tonight. Inciarte in right, Pollock in center with Goldschmidt at first, Peralta in left, Saltalamacchia catching, Jake Lamb down at third. Chris Owings, Nick Ahmed, Patrick Corbin the latter third. Making his 22nd start, and this is his first full year in the big leagues, his right-hander Anthony DeSclafani.
He's been very impressive, DeSclafani has. That 7-7 record is even a little bit deceptive. He probably could have a few more wins than that. He's had some very good games in which he received no decisions. Heavy sinking fastball, really good slider, and a changeup that is an important pitch to throw to left-handers is coming along nicely.
Where DeSclafani seemingly has done his best work is on the road. Now, you look at his home earned run average, and it's a little bit over 5, but a lot of that came in consecutive starts at home, where he allowed 12 runs in only about 7 innings total over 2 starts. But look at those road numbers. Earned run average at 2.4, and they're barely hitting 200 against him. But he'll figure out how to pitch at Great American Ballpark. Didn't take Matt Latos very long. Became a dominant starter during his tenure with the Reds. We know all about Johnny Cueto and how good he was at home. Weekly hit. And Phillips will throw out Inciarte. The Reds on defense presented by Floyd. The only change from last night is at third base, where Todd Frazier, as most of you know, has really been slumping since the All-Star break. Gets a day off. Sure, he'll be right back in the lineup tomorrow night in San Diego. Short fly ball will fall in a base hit for Pollock.
When you pitch inside, you're going to get your fair share of these, especially when you're a hard-throwing pitcher, because he just saws them off right here. Comes right in there. Look at the run on that ball. It started inside anyway. But Pollock been able to just get enough on it to drop it in there. Those are the kind of hits that you can't do anything about, and you cannot let them discourage you.
Now Paul Goldschmidt. And certainly they'll keep an eye, will DeSclafani and Barnhart, on the runner at first, Pollock. He has 24 stolen bases. He's been thrown out 6 times. Goldschmidt 0 for 4 last night. Only hit the ball hard 1 time. That was in the first inning. Bounced into a big double play with 2 on in the 5th, with the Reds leading 3-1 at the time. Goldschmidt was 0 for 3 with a pair of strikeouts on Friday night.
He came in slumping, and he continues in this series. And that's one that you wonder, maybe Chip Hale, the Diamondbacks manager, may put a play on, allow Pollock to run. I mean, DeSclafani has given up 12 stolen bases, only 1 throw him out. So he's had a hard time keeping runners on base at first base.
You see, in the month of August, all 3 of his hits that he's had this month came in 1 game. Broken bat, foul ball out of play.
Boy, that little 2-seamer will eat you up. We talk about a heavy ball, and I'm not really sure how to describe what a heavy ball is compared to a light baseball, but there are some guys you play catch with that it's like he's throwing a shot put your way. And DeSclafani is one of those guys, when you get that little 2-seamer that runs like that in on your hands, all it wants to do is eat up your thumbs.
Runner goes, had a big time jump and really no chance even with a clean exchange. to throw out Pollock. That's his 25th steal.
Well, 13 successful stolen bases off of Anthony DeSclafani, only one throw him out. And you're right, I'm not so sure that Barnhart had much of a chance anyway. But, you know, that's just something that's going to get better with DeSclafani. You don't want him to change it so much right now. You got Paul Goldschmidt in the batter's box. You want to make sure you deliver the best pitch possible and not really worry about the stolen base.
Goldschmidt, his first hit of the series, will drive in a run. And for the third straight game in this series, the Diamondbacks score in the first inning.
Yeah, it looked like it was a breaking ball, a slider that he kind of hung it up there a little bit for him, and that's the kind of pitch right there that'll get you out of a slump.
That's not a bad spot for a fastball, but not a good spot for a slider.
So 1-0 Arizona. And here's David Peralta, 10 home runs, 52 batted in. Peralta has knocked in first inning runs in each of the first 2 games of this series. Tardy on a fastball up and away out of the strike zone. 0-1 on Peralta. Strike 2. Sinking line drive, another base hit. They're going to hold the runner Goldschmidt at third. And the Diamondbacks 3 straight hits after Inciarte was retired leading off the game.
Catcher number 8, Saltalamacchia.
These last 2 starts have just been lights out for DeSclafani, both of them against the same team, the St. Louis Cardinals. Went 7 innings of 3-hit shutout baseball in St. Louis on the 29th of July. Came back Tuesday. 6 innings, 7 hits, only 2 runs. Struck out a career high 9 and did not walk a single batter. Of course, this series, the first time the Reds have seen these Diamondbacks. So it's the first time that Arizona has ever seen Anthony DeSclafani. He did not face them in his handful of starts, a couple of more than that while pitching with the Marlins last year. Oh, and 2 on Saltalamacchia. Saltalamacchia brought up on May the 29th. He played all of 9 games in Miami before they released him on May the 7th. And signed by the Diamondbacks the very next day as a minor league free agent. He's had a good career.
Well, he's 30 years old now, Saltalamacchia is. And he's been with a number of different ball clubs. But when you can catch and you can hit a little bit, there's always going to be somebody out there that could use an extra receiver.
There was a time they thought this guy was going to be a great player when he first came to the big leagues, and he's had his moments of good runs at it, but never turned into the player many thought he would. That doesn't mean that he's still not hanging around, and as you point out, continuing to try and catch on and play.
Well, you're right, and you know that always happens when you're a #1 draft pick, because you get that label, and sometimes that label can be an anchor. And not to say that he wouldn't be, but he made the major leagues when he was 22 years old.
Came up originally with Texas, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Atlanta first, and then Texas
then
right
Texas.
away, right after that.
Interesting conversation today. We were talking about catchers, and catchers that are really, really good offensive players. and was talking with Bob Brentley, who, of course, managed a World Series champion here in Arizona with the Diamondbacks in 2001. He's been a broadcaster for a long, long time, and was a catcher in the big leagues, a guy who one year made an all-star team, but by and large, he was a guy that shared a lot of playing time, wasn't a regular throughout his entire career. You know, we got to talking about Kyle Schwarber and the way he's not going to cover off the ball for the Cubs. And, you know, somebody in the room made the comment about, well, look at Buster Posey. And he turned around to the fellow in the room and he said, well, yeah, look at Buster Posey. He's the only guy in big league baseball that's had a pretty significant run over the last number of years maintaining good offensive production while playing behind the plate. And we were talking about, you know, moving guys to different positions if you think they have a chance to be a really dynamic offensive player rather than catching. And Saltalamacchia is gone because the Cubs have been playing Schwarber in the outfield. And you may remember the Reds were flirting around with the idea because of the hip injury of Devin Mesoraco going to the outfield. When he comes back next year, would the Reds consider during this offseason testing Mesoraco in left field so as not to wear him down and get the ultimate production out of him offensively?
It's an interesting strategy. Of course, there's always more to it than meets the eye. In the case of the Cubs, you've got another catcher there that they've signed to a multi-year deal in Miguel Montero.
Here's Jake Lamb, ball one.
But if you can hit, they'll make room for you. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. And I really think that there's more to it nowadays for being a catcher than ever before. I mean, the scouting reports are so detailed, and the responsibility the catchers have in that respect have grown enormously over the last few years. I'm not so sure it's all necessary, but it's certain that every ball club is bought into it.
Ball and one strike on the Arizona third baseman. Straight up in the air. So DeSclafani gives up 3 straight hits, but with runners on the corners and 1 out, he does not allow another run. End of 1. Diamondbacks lead 1-0. Hall of Famer Tony Perez. We invite you to come early, witness the unveiling of the legendary first baseman's bronze statue and a special on-field pregame ceremony. The first 30,000 fans in attendance receive a replica Tony Perez statue presented by La Rosas. Very much looking forward to that. There'll be an on-field ceremony after the game, before the fireworks on Friday, a pregame ceremony where they unveil the statue Saturday. Reds down 1-0. Corbin against Marlon Boone. And there's a tapper to the shortstop. What a way, Chris, you made a comment a minute ago that sparked comments that were made yesterday by Chicago Cubs manager Joe Maddon. Now here you have a team that had a half-game lead for that second wild card spot going into a big 4-game weekend series against a team directly behind them, the defending world champion Giants. Joe Maddon decides Starlin Castro is no longer my shortstop. I'm moving Addison Russell over to short. He decides Schwarber is going to start playing in the outfield regularly. They're rookies in the game yesterday. Chris Bryant, Schwarber, Soler, and Russell combined to go 7 for 14 yesterday in that win as they won the first 3 games. But you were talking about, all the things that catchers are having to learn and the information age and this and that and everything else. Maddon said something I thought was very interesting after the game. He said, I don't want my players thinking about anything. Just play. I don't want them getting here early for extra work, too much work. I don't want too much information. It's Saturday's game. Tomorrow is Sunday's game. Just go play like you know how to play baseball. Bruce launches one into deep center field, but it plays big out there. 2 away in the inning.
I don't know how you feel about those comments by Joe Maddon, but I really think that they're refreshing. There is a tendency now, because every team has more coaches. They've got more strength and conditioning coaches, and everybody's got a clipboard that you have to complete a certain procedure or protocol every day, and it comes down to coming here and doing a bunch of work. When all of a sudden, if you do too much of that work and you're worried about the check marks on the clipboard, you forget the most important check mark of all is to whether you get a check mark in the win column or you get one in the loss column. And Joe Maddon is refreshing. The Cubs brought him in and they paid him a boatload of money to be the manager over the next 5 years. But in the process, they have empowered him to run the on-the-field organization there. So when he goes to the Cubs front office and says, I want this guy out as a starter, I'm going to put somebody else in, they're going to allow him to do that. And I think that he brings a refreshing outlook. It all comes down to human beings playing the game. And we all know, Tom, when you're having fun and relaxed, you're playing a lot better than when you're tight and worn out.
We've talked about it when the Reds have played the Cubs this year, where, when Maddon starts to sense that there's players coming to the ballpark at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for night games, or coaches coming in, there have been times this year where he has locked the clubhouse door.
Well,
and said, nobody's allowed in this place. Not our players, not our coaches. I don't want them here this time of the day.
Well, what he says about that is that if you come early like that, all that means is you're going to sit on the couch longer and eat more snacks.
Gone swinging Suarez. And the inning is over. Diamondbacks lead 1-0. It certainly holds true for Anthony DeSclafani, Chris, something you touched on earlier. When he throws strikes walking 2 or less, those numbers are good. You walk 3 or more, they're not so good.
Boy, you know what? This is the calling card of any pitching coach out there that will just show you this panel and say, hey, does it get any simpler than this? You throw the ball over the plate, you make them put the ball in play, and your defense will help you, by the way, when that happens. You're going to be a lot better off. And DeSclafani is exactly really living what a lot of pitching coaches preach on an everyday basis.
7, 8, 9 in the Diamondbacks batting order. Owings, Ahmed, and the pitcher Corbin. Arizona 1-0 lead, getting 3 straight hits, including an RBI double by Goldschmidt in the first.
You know, Tom, we were having when it comes to walks and giving up hits versus walks, you know, we talk a lot when we're off the air. We get here early and we're talking in the media room. We're talking to different players and scouts and so on. We had a conversation earlier today about the value of a walk over a base hit. And from a pitcher standpoint, and I said personally as a former pitcher, I wish I got over this earlier, that a pitcher doesn't like to give up a hit because you feel like the guy beat you. Whereas when you give up a walk, you still feel like, well, I could have got the guy out, but I just missed the strike zone. Now, the result is usually the same. Guy goes to first base. But until you get past the fact, and every coach is preaching to you, a walk is just as bad as a hit. But internally to your ego, it's not. A hit is worse. Until a pitcher can get past that, he's going to be battling.
Oh, dear. It's already 3 broken bats.
Yeah, they're going to need a new shipment.
Yeah, they've had a whole pile of them in the first 2+ games of this series.
I mean, that little there. Look at the little flakes of timber just flying all over the place. It's like it's got a chipping machine going there.
Nice chipping machine. You ever worked with one of those?
A chipper, yeah.
Have you?
I rented one time and turned it on. It made such big noise, it just scared the heck out of me. I turned it off and took it back. I thought, you got to get some pros in here for this.
Weak ground ball by Ahmed to his counterpart, 2 away. Now, but what was your plan for that? I mean, what were you doing with that thing? That's dangerous stuff, man.
I know, and I was had a lot of trim. You know, that I cut down some small trees and a lot of limbs.
You went out and did the trimming. You did?
Oh yeah, I did all that. Yeah.
With a saw,
with a with a pole saw.
Yeah, yeah.
And then even jumped up in a tree like a fool with a chainsaw, and cut some of them. Did a little chainsaw, and had a big pile of stuff. I didn't know what to do with it. I wanted to burn it. That decision got turned down, and then I was going to seek sweet revenge by chipping it all into mulch.
Sure.
Until you crank that baby up and it sounds like a jet engine. Like, I don't think so. So I have a lot of respect for those tree trippers. You drive by them on the street and they're hanging up there. Hey, that's not an easy job at all.
No, it is not. 2-2.
It really doesn't matter what side of the plate you're on. DeSclafani is coming right in there on you. Both these guys from back east. DeSclafani from New Jersey and Patrick Corbin from Syracuse, New York area. Actually, Cicero.
I met a fella in the Army the other night at the airport who is based up by there. He's a native Californian. I think he said it's his 7th or 8th year in the Army, and his whole family is stationed up there outside of Syracuse. And we got to talking about the winter time up there. As DeSclafani's having a hard time putting Corbin away. He looked at me and said, "You ever been up there in the winter time?" I said, "No." He just said, "You cannot believe how brutal it is." 9th pitch, and there's a walk with 2 outs to the opposing pitcher. Wow. And Brian Price even shakes his head. But he knows that he is watching these young pitchers and trying to, they're like buds. Sooner or later, you're just hoping they continue to open up and bloom, and it's not going to be easy. Inciarte bounced out to Phillips leading off the first inning, and he'll do it again here in the second. We're off to the third, where the Diamondbacks lead the Reds 1-0.
Sports Ohio. Last night, hope you enjoyed the post-game interview with Kivas Sampson. We found out very quickly this is a good young man, and what an outing last night. 6 innings, 1 run. It was his first major league victory. Got that repeatable delivery and was not afraid to use his breaking ball in crucial situations. Got some big outs in that game, including a double play against Paul Goldschmidt. Now, after the game, he was talking to the media further, and he said, you know what? There is nothing guaranteed in this game. I am pitching like I'm trying to just buy another start. Well, we talked to Brian Price about that today, and he says he loves that attitude, loves a young guy that wants to come here and earn it each and every time and not be given anything. But he did say Kivas has earned that next start. He will indeed still be in the rotation.
Well, can you imagine, Jim? It's a wonderfully refreshing attitude to see from players, and the Reds have a number of those guys. But I mean, can you imagine where he was mentally? And he relived his story with a lot of the media after the game yesterday about how the Padres called him on the phone and told him that, basically he was the last guy they were going to leave off their roster, which made him a minor league free agent and available for another team to come get him if they decided to, and the Reds did. He had no bitter feelings, no hard feelings, nothing but nice things to say, as there's a base hit by De Jesus to begin the third inning. Nothing bad to say, Chris, about the Padres organization. Appreciated them drafting him, giving him a chance. And here he is. His next start is going to be at historic Dodger Stadium. That is a long way from Ocala, Florida.
Wait till he stands on the mound in Dodger Stadium and looks up, sees home plate, and then you start elevating your eyeball all the way up and you see 5 levels of stands. I mean, that, from that perspective, there's no other stadium like Dodger Stadium.
You're right. Because for those who have never been, you really don't see it a lot on TV, because the upper deck, the 5th level, it doesn't even run from first base behind the plate to third base. It's more like halfway up each line and then behind the plate. It's not a full deck like the upper deck necessarily is here.
Plus, it's built into the side of a hill, too.
Right.
So when you enter at the ground level in certain parts of it, you go up 8 stories, 8 floors to get to the top level.
It's an easy double play off of that Brian Hall. DeSclafani, I beg your pardon. We saw him signing autographs after the game last night. He did an interview with Jim Day after getting his first major league win, and Chris, you pointed out he might have stood there till tomorrow morning.
Well, I mean, you're on such a high. When you get your first major league win, you're in the big leagues. You really can't believe the events that brought you here. I mean, at one point you're not sure if you're going to get out of Double-A, and next thing you know, you're pitching in the major leagues. And you come out to run this morning. I was watching him early when he came out here, and he was running. And I mean, his feet, he was probably felt like he was running on air. I mean, he could have run all day long just with an attitude of, man, I made it. I can't believe it. I got to keep working. But you do enjoy this day after more than anything else.
1-2 on Anthony DeSclafani. Reds have 1 hit through the first 2 2/3 innings. That'll do it for the Reds. Third strikeout for Corbin. Middle of the third. Reds on the short end of a 1-0 game.
Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, it's your time to tweet your strongest fan photo. Use hashtag OhioDataStrongFan. You might just see yourself during an upcoming Reds telecast here on Fox Sports Ohio. It's brought to you by T-Mobile. Arizona scored in the first inning Friday night, won the game 2-0. Scored in the first inning last night, lost 4-1. Scored in the first inning today, they lead 1-0. A lot of Reds fans here. As we've talked about throughout this entire weekend, a much, much smaller crowd today than the one on hand for the Randy Johnson ceremony, where they retired his jersey number 51 prior to the game last night. Ball 1 to A.J. Pollock, 2, 3, and 4 in the order. Goldschmidt, then Peralta. Diamondbacks will stay right here. They just came off a road trip. They have the Philadelphia Phillies in for 3. Then they go on a really long trip. Well, the Diamondbacks are one of 2 teams, the other one being the Giants. Nice play by DeJesus. Wow. Ivan De Jesus Jr. takes away a hit. Perhaps even an extra base hit from Pollock. Well done filling in today for Todd Frazier.
Boy, you're not kidding about that. This ball had base hit written all over it. Down the line, a dive, get up quick, throw it on the money. Not even with a bounce. You may have seen at the very beginning of that play, he's kind of in motion, getting ready on every pitch. Every infielder who's a good infielder is a little bit on the move as the pitch is delivered to the plate. You're not standing there still. You're even not on the balls of your feet. You're coming forward just a little bit. Some guys use a counting method, 1, 2, 3, and set. Other guys just kind of bounce a little bit. But this is him pre-pitch right there, kind of getting ready, moving back actually on that, and makes a nice play.
Well, you know his papa is proud of that. We've talked many times before. His dad was an outstanding major league player. And Ivan, for the first time ever, now getting a chance to stick at the major league level. Dad comes to a lot of games in Cincinnati.
It's a good spot for him here in Cincinnati. I mean, the Reds farm system is flush with pitching, but maybe not so much with infielders, especially middle type infielders. And it's all about, you know, right place, right time.
One ball and 2 strikes on Goldschmidt, who knocked in the game's only run with a double to left field in the first inning.
They're trying to keep that breaking ball away from Goldschmidt, and he's a guy that will hit it the other way. But the double that he got was a hanger on the inner part of the plate.
That ball is in the air right center field. And Goldschmidt has his second double in as many at bats.
You'd really like to get out of town before he wakes up and starts cranking. See where Barnhart is set up. He wants it down and in. That ball gets up, and that's a pitch when it's up in the zone. It's just a little bit easier for hitters to get to. People around here are used to seeing that ball be a splashdown.
26 doubles on the season now for Goldschmidt. And here's Peralta, who's singled into left. Goldschmidt was held at third. He was a runner at second, and now he takes off. Throw down by Barnhart. They got it. Reds will take that decision all day, every day, and Tucker taking care of the throw.
Maybe not a bad idea, but just bad execution. Look at the lead. Not anywhere near a big enough lead to start right there. He thought maybe he could get a running jump because DeSclafani would not give him much credit for having a small lead.
Well, broken bat flare, how important is that now?
Cost him a run.
There's Peralta's. The more you watch him, he's an impressive looking player. And we've documented that he was at one time a pitcher in the Cardinals organization and was independent baseball for a couple of years, making the change to a position player. I mean, that is just astounding that a young man can be a pitcher and then make it to the big league, shifting gears in your early 20s to become a position player. Remember, Rick Ankiel did the same thing for the St. Louis Cardinals. Of course, he was a pitcher at the big league level and a good one before all of a sudden he couldn't throw the ball over the plate. Went all the way back to the low minor leagues and made it back eventually for a long career as an outfielder.
Yeah, for Peralta, even lower in the minor leagues, he played a few different stops in independent ball. Not affiliated with any major league team when he was cut loose by the St. Louis Cardinals. And that as a pitcher. You know, you see the position player turned pitcher a lot more than you do. Jason Mott comes to mind. A reliever now with the Cubs. But
Joe Nathan.
Joe Nathan, yeah. But the other way around is a tough way to go. there are a lot more naysayers who tell you can't. You know, first of all, if you're ever pegged as a pitcher, you automatically cannot hit. What most people say.
Mm-hmm.
He can hit.
2-1 on Saltalamacchia. And, you know, that whole idea is just preposterous about labeling a guy that you can't hit because you're a pitcher, because a lot of the guys, not all of them, but a lot of the guys that are playing at the highest level of high school baseball, wherever it is that they're playing, they're not only the best pitcher on the team,
yeah.
In a lot of cases they're the best hitter on the team.
And they probably played shortstop when they didn't pitch.
Good pitch right there to get Saltalamacchia swinging. 2 hits, 1 left, end of 3, 1-0 Arizona. Now August, pennant race is heating up big time. That Cardinals scoreless inning streak on the mound ended today. In fact, they lost today. Gave up a lead late, 5-4 to Milwaukee. Jonathan Broxton allowing a home run to lose that game to Milwaukee. Ortiz, wow, what a career. And the Toronto Blue Jays sweep the New York Yankees in a 3-game series in the Bronx. They are now 1.5 games behind the division-leading New York Yankees. Of course, when you go out and trade at the deadline, you get Troy Tulowitzki and David Price. That's pretty good.
Well, it gives your team a jolt.
Sure. Pirates will be gunning for the sweep later tonight at home against the division-leading Dodgers. Cubs 6 outs away from a 4-game weekend sweep of the Giants. Billy Hamilton drills one down the left field line, and that ball bounces over the wall, or Hamilton would have been on his way to third base. But a good start to things here in the Reds' 4th inning for Billy.
Well, Brian Price explained it that he got Billy Hamilton out of the number 9 spot, put him in the leadoff spot because batting right-handed, they felt he's a little bit better right now than left-handed. So he batted in the leadoff last night. And he gets a little breaking ball right there that he rifles down the left field line.
Here's Brandon Phillips, among the league leaders hitting against left-handed pitching so far this year is Brandon. 0 for 1 today. He bounced out to the shortstop. Phillips against left-handed pitching so far this year, among the very best in the league, hitting .319. Billy, 51 stolen bases. He has more steals of third by far than any player in the big leagues. In fact, he has more stolen bases of third than all teams in the big leagues except the team the Reds are playing today. Breaking ball bunted foul.
That's kind of interesting right there. I don't know if Brandon would have done that on himself or whether that was called from the bench.
Now, we remember earlier this year, Brandon was asked to bunt in a similar situation. Did not look good doing it. He did not look happy being asked to do it. The next time in a similar situation, Brian Price did not ask him to put down a bunt, and he did not advance the runner to third. Again, he shortens up, pulls the bat away, 1 ball and 1 strike.
Well, the reason I don't like this play is that Brandon is swinging a hot bat. He's very good against left-handed pitching. He's adept at hitting the ball the other way. So why not let him take a shot to hit the ball the other way? You may get a base hit that scores a run. And now all of a sudden you have a big inning on your hand. Well, the way the Reds have been scuffling for runs, though, maybe you can see why Brian Price, if he is calling it, why he would do it.
Not that time, hits the ball the other way, but foul. So he won't be bunting now. Got 1 ball and 2 strikes.
That's what's great about this game, though. You know, decisions like that, whether you agree with them or not, at least it opens up the book for some discussion. And those that feel strongly about it are strongly in their own side of the fence. Some who really detest the bunt, they say it really forced the opportunity for a huge inning. Reds haven't had too many of those lately. If I'm Patrick Corbin, I'm dropping that slider rather than something away that makes Brandon his job of hitting that ball the right side easy. I'm trying to drop that slider on his back foot.
And that's where he goes to get the strikeout.
I don't know if that was a true slider or just a cutter, but at 91 miles an hour, cutting action down and in. Boy, that's nasty. And a wasted at bat.
Phillips marching up and down that dugout does not look happy at all. Disappointed he was unable to, at the very minimum, advance that runner. Joey Votto bounced out to the first baseman Goldschmidt, his only time up. Hamilton may look to try and get to third sometime during this Votto at bat. To be standing down there with 1 out in the inning, and is certainly drawing the attention of Corbin. It's not the manager who gives the signs to the catcher for the Diamondbacks. It's the bench coach who's been here since the very first day of the organization, Glenn Sherlock. Fastball away, 2-0 on Votto. There's Glenn Sherlock. Well, you talk about the ultimate survivor. He was hired by Buck Showalter 2 years before the Diamondbacks started playing. He has never left. He has been on the coaching staff through 5 different managers. Breaking ball, 2-1. You had Showalter, followed by Brenly, Al Pedrique for a short while, A.J. Hinch.
Melvin.
Bob Melvin. Kirk Gibson, this is his seventh manager.
He would have got me on Al Pedrique.
He's a half a year.
Yeah.
Two and one to Joey Votto. 3 balls and a strike. Votto trying to tie this game up, has Hamilton out there at second base and takes a 3-1 fastball for strike 2.
Well, remember what we did yesterday with Randy Johnson? They retired his number yesterday, and we did a little panel to show you that if they wanted to have the programming to show every one of Randy Johnson's strikeouts, given that each strikeout took about 2 minutes, you would need 6 days and 22 hours. Well, we decided to do the same thing for Joey Votto and his walks this year.
Wow.
And considering that each walk would take about 2 minutes, you need 23. Oh, that would be career walks. 23 hours of programming.
How about that?
And he's a long way from ending the number of walks that he's being given. Now, they may not be quite as exciting, I think, as a Randy Johnson strikeout, but every bit as effective.
One and 0 on Marlon Byrd, 2 on. Hamilton has not attempted to run. Corbin continues to sort of keep him guessing a little bit out there. He stepped off. He's held the ball a little bit.
And he's getting jockeyed back a little bit by different infielders. He was the shortstop when Votto was up. Ahmed was back and forth with him. And now Chris Owings, the second baseman, will come in to join the conversation between catcher and pitcher.
Two on, 1 out. 2 balls and no strikes on Marlon Byrd. Reds down 1-0. Fastball taken for a strike on the outside edge. Byrd, a soft ground ball to the shortstop, his first time up. Jay Bruce in the on-deck circle nearly left the yard his first time up. Uh-oh. Good thing that Saltalamacchia did not throw down to first base, because Votto had taken off almost as though he read Hamilton was going to take off. And Joey got caught out there nearly in no man's land.
Well, it's such a good decoy right there that Billy Hamilton, he didn't fake out the Diamondbacks defense, but he did fake out Joey Votto. Votto doing the right thing, trying to follow the move of the lead runner.
Line drive, center field, a base hit. Billy naturally being waved around. They won't even throw to the plate. And Marlon Byrd with a single. And the Reds have tied the game at 1.
Right fielder, Jay Bruce.
Sounded good and felt good, I'm sure, from Marlon. That ball just kind of ran back off the inner side of the plate, and he was there to level a line drive to center field.
Well, now the pitching coach, a one-time #1 draft pick by the Chicago Cubs, oft injured during his major league career. Pitcher Mike Harkey, he's been alongside his former battery mate back in his Cub days for the last number of years as a coach for the New York Yankees. Of course, he has a son that plays in the NFL. Good player.
Tight end, right?
Yep, St. Louis Rams. Played collegiately for the Bruins. First time the Reds have scored a run in this series, it's not come on the long ball. They had 3 home runs, accounting for all 4 runs last night. Jay Bruce hit one just underneath the overhang in the deepest part of left center field. It was caught. His first time up. Strike 1. It's more than just an oddity, the way they have those seats that overhang in deepest part of left center and right center field. There's not a, it doesn't happen frequently, but the rare times it does, boy, it's quite an adventure. If somebody hits a line drive, that's not like hitting the wall or the softer padded wall. When it hits that steel out there, there's no telling where it's going. And from time to time, you'll see it. Bruce hooks one into right field, a base hit. And the Reds have him loaded. 3 hits and a walk in this inning against Corbin. And here comes Eugenio Suarez with a chance to put the Reds in front for the first time today.
Well, nothing going on down the Diamondbacks bullpen, so it will be Corbin for the rest of the inning. Nice bit of hitting right there by Jay Bruce. 0-2. And he was just trying to stay alive right here, just trying to maybe put the bat on the ball to extend the at bat, and he finds a hole with that one. He's had enough of those snuffed out against a shift on the right side. He may deserve one right there.
So they're loaded for a Eugenio Suarez. That's a pitch he struck out on his first time up, chasing that high fastball. He lays off the first pitch in a similar spot here. Suarez a chance to do some big time damage right here and right now. Two and 0. Of course, he ended the scoreless inning string at 30 with a 2-out, 2-run home run to left field, his 6th. That came in the 4th inning off Rob Ray yesterday. Trouble here. Having a hard time getting it out of his mitt was a third baseman, and it cost him. So the Reds take advantage of the inability to turn what should have been an inning-ending double play, and they have a 2-1 lead.
Third baseman.
They would have had to turn it very quickly because it was not hit all that hard. Jake Lamb, the third baseman, gets it on a couple of hops here, and just when he reaches in there, couldn't get the grab, and that double little grab right there in his glove caused the second baseman Owings to be able to have to stick that ball in his pocket.
So a fielder's choice run batted in for Suarez. Here's De Jesus, who singled into left field 1 inning ago.
I always thought that the consequences of that type of play from a scoring decision are very interesting because you hit the same ground ball. If the defense does its job, a double play, inning over, nothing. But because the defense did not do what you should be able to do at the major league level, you pick up an RBI.
A lot of the folks out there are well aware of this, but there are some that are still learning the game and maybe some of the nuances of the game, and perhaps scoring would be one of those. if there was nobody out in the inning and you hit a double play and a run scores, a batter is not given credit on a double play for a run batted in. And there are a lot of those folks out there that would like to learn about keeping score, and sometimes you get a little uptight because maybe some others around you know how to do it, maybe you don't. That's the way I felt every day in math class.
You're glad those days are over.
Oh, golly day. You have no idea. Driven in a deep right center field, but it's big out there. The Reds come up with a pair, and they lead after 3.5, 2-1.
Clubs of America, boys and girls clubs help young people to reach their full potential as productive, caring, and responsible citizens through programs that promote character and leadership, education, healthy lifestyles, and more. So for more information on Fox Sports Supports, visit foxsportssupports.com.
I like that promo. Nice, and they do a good job, Boys and Girls Club.
They really do. And they cannot get enough support from you out there.
And Fox Sports Supports has been, there are no words to describe the difference ever since Fox and all the different sports that they have in their rights holders packages, whether it's NASCAR, the NFL, or baseball, or now golf. The amount of awareness that they bring to each of those charities that we vote on. We being employees at Fox Sports, we vote on 5 different charities per year out of a list of about, 10 or 12. They're all great. Nice play by Brandon to the glove side, 1 out.
Well, really nice play by Brandon Phillips, especially with the leadoff batter of the inning. Smothers it. Really interesting at bat from a pitching standpoint for DeSclafani, because he threw a couple of pitches in that inning that I would call like dead fish pitches. Not quite a changeup, not quite a hard fastball, something in between that has a lot of sink on it. He threw one at 88, he threw another at 90. In between, he threw an 84-mile-an-hour changeup. So, that's called pitching right there, and it's not the same as just rearing back and using your fastball that he impressed a lot of people with back in spring training.
Oh, my gosh. How in the world does a man have the reaction time? And it's a good thing he does.
I don't think Chris Owings can hit one harder.
Shortstop, Nick.
Vaughn earlier in the game made an outstanding play down at third. That was leading off the third inning. Again, a leadoff hitter and getting a good play defensively, like we saw Phillips here in the fourth. It was De Jesus who took away a hit. Looked like an extra base hit by Pollock to start that inning. So here's Ahmed. Ball one.
That's like positioning yourself at the end of the tee box and picking off a Bubba Watson driver, huh?
No.
I mean, that ball has got to be coming off the bat. No, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but it's got to. You're coming in at 93 or 94, and it's coming off the bat at probably minimum 110 when it's hit that hard. And you're about 87 feet away. Between innings, you can figure out the reaction time that Ivan had for that one.
Well, the Diamondbacks would be celebrating by that point in time their 20,000th game as a franchise. There's a weak roller. This time Brandon can't get there, and Ahmed with a 2-out single. Corbin will bat.
What do you think Chris Owings is thinking right now? I just blistered a ball right on the button. Can't hit it any harder, and it turns into an out. And here Ahmed just dribbles one to the right side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hops before it gets to the outfield grass. And it's a base hit. You know, and Patrick Corbin grew up in Cicero, New York, up near Syracuse. His first love was basketball. In fact, he didn't even try out for the high school baseball team until he was a junior. And he only did that because he was prodded by all of his basketball teammates. They all were playing, and they wanted him to hang along with them. His dad, when he was a freshman, brought home the paperwork to sign up for the freshman baseball team. He said, I don't want to do that. I'd just rather play in the backyard with the guys. After very little training, as a junior, he threw 80 miles an hour. As a senior, he threw a little bit harder. But when he graduated high school, he weighed 150 pounds.
Wow.
Undefeated in his 2 years. All-region type player. Went on to junior college up in upstate New York. Grades were not good enough to get him into a 4-year school. Then it ended up going down to Chipola Junior College in Florida. That's where he was scouted and signed, drafted in the second round.
One and two on Corbin.
He worked the walk last time up.
Gone swinging, and that will end the inning. End of 4. Reds in front, 2-1.
There's been a lot of reminiscing this weekend. Randy Johnson's number retired yesterday. And after today's game, they'll have an alumni game. Reds bench coach Jay Bell, who scored the winning run for in the World Series for the D-backs, will participate. And I asked him, you got anything left in the tank?
Not at all. Not at all. I got to make sure I stretch a little bit tomorrow and make sure that I can bend down like Jim Riggleman does over there at third base. If I can do that, I'll be just fine.
What will happen if some of the Reds players if they do the game quick enough, you look over here and you see a couple of them peering out and watching you hit?
No, that's I've told them that we got to make sure that the bus is gone before we start the game. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm assuming that they're going to get the game started as quickly after the game as we possibly can. But for me, I assume our players stay inside.
Now, who knows what he's going to do at the plate, but I can tell you by watching infield each day where they're taking grounders at short or second, turning double plays, and he's participating. He can flat out still pick it and throw it. I think he's going to be fine in the field. Here's the scorecard. He will bat cleanup for Team White. And, Tom, I know there are a lot of familiar names to you on that list.
Every one of them. Literally every single one of them. And it's just so interesting when I saw the names on the list as you put it back up there. You had a little bit of everything when you're an expansion franchise. There are guys that were on that team. Their only year in the big leagues, or maybe 2 years, were with an expansion club. They got that opportunity, and now they're coming back to play in it today. Obviously, that was not the case for Jay Bell. You have other players like when Travis Lee. He was the very first pick in the draft, and everybody thought he was going to be this great major league player. Never turned out that way, but very popular here in the area because of his personality and just a super guy. And then you have stars, guys that were stars. Luis Gonzalez, Jay Bell, Mark Grace, now coach for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So you've got a little bit of everything involved in that.
It's really incredible to think that the first year they came out, that was 1998, they won 65 games.
Yeah, they did
and
not
lost
lose 100.
97.
Yeah. The
next year, they won 100. I mean, you talk about that turnaround. I mean, you were there, Tom. What did Buck Showalter and Joe Garagiola do from one year to the next to go from 65 wins to 100 wins?
Well, let me give you 4 names, and then you tell me what happened. Randy Johnson. Let's start with that one.
That was
Todd Stottlemyre. Let's put that one in the mix. Steve Finley and Luis Gonzalez. That quartet got the whole thing rolling. Yeah. Stottlemyre, boy, what a gamer for people that don't remember him. He had a completely shredded labrum at the end of that 1999 season. That one is lined into right center field, a base hit. He would not have surgery. He rehabbed it, long time on the disabled list, and the only win they had in the playoffs, the division series against the New York Mets, Stottlemyre went 7 innings and allowed a run. What a gamer. Wow. Shortly thereafter, they would add, of course, in a trade, Curt Schilling. And that became the big 1-2 punch in the rotation. Grace came over. But at the end of the day, they had a lot of players by the time they won the World Series that had been really good players, in some cases great stars, none of whom had ever won a ring. Not one of them. Not Johnson, not Schilling, not Miguel Batista, not Matt Williams, not Jay Bell, Finley, Gonzalez, Danny Bautista, Reggie Sanders, not one had won a World Series ring. And that was a big reason why, part of the driving force to finally get that thing in 2001. Hey, by the way, Jim, I know you felt somebody tap you on the backside there a moment ago, but the better part, which you know nothing about, your main man who's up at the plate right now. They had that song going in the background, and Brandon started dancing right behind you. Well, he says, hey, there's my guy, Jim Day.
Well, he gave me more than a tap, too. Flat out just whacked me on the rear end.
Well, that pop-up will end the inning. Let's look at that at the break, because this is pretty good. Mobile and connected devices with MLB.tv. Remember, blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv for details. Here we go. Diamondbacks hit last of the 5th inning. Reds have a 2-1 lead. Anthony DeSclafani allowed 3 straight hits. The first 2 produced a Diamondbacks run in the opening inning. They had runners on the corners with only 1 out. He got out of that inning. Caught a little bit of a break, well, more than a little bit, in the 2nd inning, 3rd inning, when he allowed a 1-out double to Paul Goldschmidt, who, with David Peralta at the plate, took off for 3rd, was thrown out stealing, and on the next pitch, Peralta singled into center field. And that one whacked into right field by the leadoff man, Inciarte. Inciarte picked up his 11th stolen base of the season here last night. He's been thrown out 6 times.
Center fielder, DJ Pollock.
Three strikeouts, 1 walk. The walk was to the pitcher back in the Diamondbacks' 2nd inning. And now Pollock, who has singled, scored, robbed of a hit on that really nice play made by Ivan De Jesus Jr. in the 3rd inning.
The 300 average that you see for Pollock is no aberration at all. He was hitting over 300 last year before he was plunked on the wrist, I think, by Johnny Cueto. Fractured his hand and ended up on the disabled list. Not really a home run hitter, but he's got 11 bombs this year, and that is a career high for him.
One to Pollock. The Cubs have just finished off a 4-game sweep over the Giants, 2-0. San Francisco in the 9th inning had the bases loaded with nobody out. 3 straight hitters struck out to end the game.
By Rodon?
Yes. So the Cubs go from a half game in front of the Giants 4 days ago to 4.5 in front after the 4-game weekend sweep. One ball and 2 strikes to A.J. Pollock. Mets lost today, so too did the Nationals.
And so too did the St. Louis Cardinals finally.
Told you earlier the Blue Jays swept the Yankees over the weekend. Good game tonight. Dodgers in Pittsburgh, and then the Pirates will take on the Cardinals starting tomorrow night. Double play ball here. Very nice. 2 away in the inning. Now, Jim Day, I didn't get to ask you, after Brandon gave you a whack there, did you talk to him, or did he make his way out onto the on-deck circle?
He went right to the on-deck circle. I didn't even know what was going on, although I obviously felt someone hit me, and I didn't know who it was at the time. I should have known.
Yes, you should.
Who else?
Goldschmidt, 2 at-bats, 2 doubles, and a run batted in. Seven ground ball outs, 3 strikeouts, a pair of fly ball outs for DeSclafani thus far. Oh boy, he's found that stroke today.
Well, this time through the order, DeSclafani is throwing a lot of off-speed pitches. He did get the double play ball on a fastball by Pollock. But a changeup right here, and
We've already tried that spot.
Diamondbacks have 8 base hits in this game. They got 3 in the first, 2 in the third, 1 in the fourth, a couple so far here in the fifth. So that's 8 base hits really in 4 innings. They did not have 1 in the second. But much like Sampson last night, and much like Raisel Iglesias the night before, making pitches when they had to, but that will change right here and right now. They're going to wave the runner to the plate. Single and then a double. Tie game.
Boy, you think you're out of the inning when you get the double play ball. They erase the leadoff base hit. But that ball, from our perspective, Tom, we could see it all the way. It was headed all the way to the wall. Split the seam and left center field perfectly. Three hits on the day now for Peralta.
And Goldschmidt. They have 6 of the 9. In fact, 8 of the 9 have come from the top 4 batters in the lineup. I'll tell you what, that Peralta walks to the plate looking to do some damage. Now, he hadn't hit every ball hard today. Got a broken bat, little flares last time up. But man, you put guys on base and he's up there to hit. That one will drop in, a base hit. Here comes Peralta. Throw cut off. Saltalamacchia in a rundown, tagged out. But major league damage done in that inning. The run counts. 4 hits of the 5 batters he faced. And the Diamondbacks recapture the lead. It's 3-2. So now listen up. With the new student discount days presented by First Student, all students can purchase discounted tickets for all Wednesday home games by just showing your school ID at the box office. For more information, visit Reds.com/students. It's always a great program that the Reds do during the spring, and then when school revs back up in the fall. Most of the schools out here start tomorrow. Boy. Month of August out here going to school.
Wow. Hope the air conditioning works.
Well, the Diamondbacks took DeSclafani to school in that 5th inning. 4 hits of 5 batters he faced. He got a double play ball and then a runner thrown out on the base pass to end the inning. So Corbin staked to a 1-run lead for the second time today. Top of the 6th, strike 1 to Joey Votto, who's bounced to first and drawn a walk.
As we mentioned at the very onset of the ball game, they're bringing Corbin along very gently after that Tommy John surgery. He has been limited really to no more than 89 pitches in any one of his starts. So with 1 out in the 6th inning, he has 73. He has gone as many as 7 innings. That's pretty efficient. It was a couple of starts ago when he lost the ball game 2-1 to the Milwaukee Brewers.
Diamondbacks going old school today. Diving play by Goldschmidt takes a hit away from Marlon Byrd.
They're playing him way around to the right. I mean, not normally do you see a first baseman that far off the bag unless you are convinced that he's simply not going to hit it down the right field line. Marlon hit it hard, but Goldschmidt makes a nice diving backhand stab.
Diamondbacks with their alumni game after the conclusion of this one today, wearing the colors and the uniforms they wore from the beginning, with the purple and the green and white. I've never been able to get used to these new colors here. They call it Sedona Red. 2 away in the inning, and Jay Bruce looks at a strike. Fouled out a play by Jay. Got his first hit in his last 21 at bats. His last time up on an 0-2 pitch. Pitched down and away from him. Hooked it through the hole into right field, a hit. That was an important hit in that inning. Loaded the bases. Reds would get a run. Hits this ball at the second baseman, and the inning is over. Reds gone in order. Bottom of the 6th coming up. Diamondbacks in front 3-2. Fox Sports Ohio, brought to you by your local Ford dealer. Ford, go further. By Meyer, find more for a healthier you at Meyer. And by Cincinnati Children's, ranking 3rd in the country on the U.S. News and World Report's best children's hospitals in America. We welcome all those watching over at Cincinnati Children's today. Here's hoping you're having a great day and a better one tomorrow. Get a look from Squaw Peak, north of downtown Phoenix, Arizona. South Mountain there in the background. And inside this retractable roof ballpark, which opened when the franchise started, then known as Bank One Ballpark, now Chase Field. 3-2. Jake Lamb against Anthony DeSclafani. And it's 2 balls and no strikes. 3 runs, 10 hits through 5 innings for Arizona. 5 left on base, 2 runs, 5 hits, 3 left for the Reds. Long way to go still in this one. And DeSclafani starts out Lamb 3-0. Lamb Owings Ahmed. Reds have action in their bullpen for the first time. Or Badenhop, who's really been on a nice run here of late. That's right into the shift, and that is Suarez. 1 away. Well, they have hit some balls very, very hard in this game, have the Diamondbacks.
Second baseman, Chris Williams.
Well, every weeknight we call it MLB Whip Around. It's on Fox Sports 1. 7 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Now Owings. DeSclafani's spot is due up 4th when the Reds bat in the 7th, and he's right at the 90 pitch mark. Sinking liner caught by Jay Bruce. 2 out.
Shortstop, Nick Ahmed.
Boy, it's really hard to tell whether Anthony DeSclafani is down by 10 runs, up by 10 runs, on the verge of throwing a perfect game, or having a hard time getting out of the first inning. I mean, his demeanor on the mound really never changes. He's about as stoic as you will see any pitcher of any time. That last inning, the 5th, 14 pitches, but that was the damage inning by the Diamondbacks. And you'd never know. He comes, which is really something that you try to teach every pitcher, because as soon as the opposition sees that you're giving a little too emotion one way or another, oftentimes that's when they seize that opportunity and jump all over you. Some guys who just have that personality. You know, Jose Rijo, of course, you remember him pitching, how excited he would get. Matt Latos, very emotional and showed every emotion on the mound.
One and 2 to count on Ahmed. 2 down, none on. DeSclafani has not had a 1-2-3 inning this entire game. If he can take care of the Arizona shortstop here, he would do that in what appears to be, anyway, his final inning on the mound today. Third base side, and picked out of the dirt by Votto, and that will end the inning. So the first perfect inning of the game for DeSclafani. Reds come to bat in the 7th, trailing 3-2.
Through the 2030 GABP. Thanks to Reach Savings Magazine, you can catch the action and save with the 4 for $48 ticket offer. For only $48, you can get 4 view-level tickets plus 4 exclusive Reds hats. For tickets, call 513-381-REDS or visit reds.com/4 for $48. I'm Jim Day. Check behind me, make sure Brandon Phillips isn't back there. You know, the Reds Community Fund has been a terrific week for them. Yesterday, more than 3,000 participants took place in the Reds Red Legs run, and they raised over $150,000. You couple that with what we raised earlier this week in the Reds Community Fund telethon game, over $130,000. Nearly $300,000 raised this week, and once again, we salute you, Reds country. When it's time to give back, you certainly do. And we still have the Marty Brenneman Golf Classic coming up in September. That's also a big fundraiser there. So it's going to be a banner year for the Reds Community Fund and a great cause, as we've said so many times.
There's no doubt about that. I tell you, this young man is impressive. This kid is impressive. Suarez coming into second base, and that's the way it starts here in the 7th inning with a double. Tell you what, man, the more you like him as you start watching him every single day, he can swing that bat.
Well, you're right, Tom, and it's got to be just a matter of time until you see him start moving up in the batting order a little bit. He's been batting down around the 6th or 7th spot. Moved up 1 spot today because Todd Frazier's not in the lineup. But don't you want a guy swinging the bat like that getting more at-bats?
You know, you start hearing whispers. Yes, you do, to answer your question, if that was directed at me.
Yeah,
or if that was just,
probably.
Right, I got you. But, you know, at 20, just turned 24. And, you know, we talked about it the other day. Brian Price has already said, and you can understand the kind of year he was off to this year, along with his outstanding defense. in Zach Kozar that job belongs to him. He wasn't going to lose it because of the injury, but if that is indeed the case, the Reds are going to have to find another position for Suarez to play. Because he is a strong, powerful young man who carries himself like a guy who's played a long time in the big leagues.
He sure does.
He's not some rail thin, middle infielder, light hitting sort of protege type player. This guy's got some thump in that bat. Diamondbacks have action for the first time, as we suspected they would, out in their bullpen. The left-hander is Andrew Chafin. The right-hander is David Hernandez. Reds have De Jesus now. Barnhart, a switch hitter next, and then the pitcher spot, down by a run. Batting here in the top of the 7th inning, they get a leadoff double from Suarez. They decided not to ask De Jesus to bunt in this at bat, which again is interesting. And you and I have talked about this before, Chris, that adage about play for the win on the road and play to tie at home. You and I both sort of wondering who in the world came up with that notion and how anybody ever bought into it. Well, but it's not to suggest here it has anything to do with Brian Price's thinking. The bottom line is, early in the game, we don't know if Brandon Phillips was asked to do it or not. But with a runner at second base, he attempted on 2 pitches to bunt. This ball is driven into deep left center field by De Jesus, and this ball's going into the gap and is going to drive in a run. Suarez ties the game on a double by Ivan De Jesus Jr., his second hit today.
Back-to-back doubles by the left side of the infield. Suarez comes around easily. To get back to the question as to why they may not have batted De Jesus, not knowing, of course, he's going to hit a double, is that where you are in the lineup. I think you're down here in the number 7 spot, and that's one reason why you don't want to have a sacrifice bunt right there. So Patrick Corbin and his possibility of winning a ball game is gone on that double, as it goes all the way to the wall, and De Jesus has swung the bat very well. He picks up his second base hit of the day.
De Jesus has done a good job this year when they've asked him to play. It's been a nice pickup. This will be our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Chafin comes on for Arizona in a 3-3 game. To tie the game after a double by Suarez started this inning. 3-3 our score. And from the village of Wakeman, Ohio, comes former Kent State University left-handed Andrew Chafin. Wakeman, Ohio is up near Cleveland, technically in Huron County, Ohio, along the Vermilion River. They had a population in the last census of 1,038. When he was growing up, it was right around at 900. 2-0 pitch. That's quite a play right there.
Well, Saltalamacchia is one of the larger catchers you will see, body-wise, but he still gets out from behind home plate and makes a nice catch on a pop-up on an attempted bunt. Boy, when you jab at the ball like that, two things normally happen. One is you can miss it, and the other is you pop it up.
It's the only batter Chafin is going to face after the Reds send up Todd Frazier as a pinch hitter. Well, I shouldn't say that so far. Yep, he's going to make the change. Chip Hale's going to bring in his right-hander Hernandez. So the Reds fail to advance a runner down to third. One out in the inning, 3-3 game. Back in a moment. Fan photo, and you can tweet yours to hashtag Ohio Data Strong Fan. It's brought to you by T-Mobile. Peggy had a girl. Very, very nice. Alrighty, so DeSclafani taken down, goes 6 innings. He cannot lose it. He still could win it if the Reds can get that runner De Jesus Jr. home here in the 7th. David Hernandez on to face Todd Frazier.
Not too many at bats like this for Todd Frazier as far as being a pinch hitter. Those are the numbers overall, and it would be nice to see him break out of it with a long ball.
Frazier only one pinch hit appearance all season long. Breaking ball away. De Jesus ties the game with a double, following a double by Suarez to start this inning, chasing Corbin. Chafin gets an out. 2-0 pitch is popped up and out of play. Two-one delivery to Frazier, trying to snap a 3-3 tie. Fastball swung on and missed. Two balls, two strikes on Frazier. Away.
Vic Carapazza, the home plate umpire, thought it was right on the corner. We're going to take a look at our Fox tracks, and that is number 5, as you see down there in the box. And we showed us off the plate. So Todd Frazier, all right to be a little upset right there.
All right, here's Billy Hamilton. 2 hits today and 3 at bats, a double and a single. And he's down, strike 1. All of those at bats came as a right-handed hitter against a left-handed Corbin. Reds had a run in, a runner at second, nobody out. A failed bunt attempt by Barnhart. A strikeout against Frazier, and the Reds are hoping Hamilton can deliver a 2-out hit. We stay tied at 3. Reds come up with a run in the 7th. Summary, Paul Goldschmidt did not have a hit this entire series, and boy, he has been letting it rip here today. Run scoring double for a 1-0 lead. Reds scored a pair in the 4th inning. Single by Marlon Berg. Suarez, the fielder's choice. The Diamondbacks would come back and score a pair in the 5th. They had 4 hits, scoring 2 runs. Peralta has 3 hits like Goldschmidt. And then he would score on a single by Saltalamacchia. But in the 7th inning, the Reds tie the game on a double by Eugenio Suarez. And he would trot in on a double by Ivan De Jesus Jr. 3 runs, 10 hits for Arizona. 3 runs, 7 hits for the Redlegs. And now taking over for Anthony DeSclafani is Burke Badenhop.
Now, kind of a tale of 2 seasons for Burke, as you see right there. We've shown this graphic before. 9 games early on, terrible. But since then, one of the go-to guys for Brian Price out of the bullpen. He pitches a lot in games in which they either are tied or down by just a run or 2.
This is one of your favorite parts of being at the ballpark, when they do the chicken dance.
Well, I mean,
I like this.
Well, when you've raised 5 kids,
that's right.
You hear that song in your sleep.
That's big league. Jim Day, can you do the chicken dance?
Not even a little bit.
Oh, come on. Anybody can do the chicken dance.
No.
You don't even have to have rhythm to do the chicken dance.
Well, let's teach him tonight the chicken dance.
Let's do it. I'm willing to learn. But no, I have no clue how to even do it.
Oh, come on.
I really don't.
You know, you do the chicken, the beak. You know, you do that with your fingers. And then you flap your wings, and then you sort of do a little twist, and then you clap 4 times. So you got this thing going on for 4, this thing for 4, a little bit of that for 4, and then 4 of those. I mean, come on. If I could do it, anybody can do it.
All right, I'll work on it.
All right. I mean, this isn't like dancing to Marvin Gaye here or something like that.
Oh, he can do that.
Jim can?
Oh, yeah.
Jim, you got the rhythm in you?
He does the rhythm dance. It's the chicken dance he needs help with. And I'm glad you're here for that.
Yeah, you put a little R&B on, and I'm in there.
All right, well, we have to maybe on a team plane, on a charter, get a little Marvin Gaye.
After a win, music on the plane. After a loss,
silence.
Headphones.
2-2 to Aaron Hill. Pulled foul. Diamondbacks bat in the bottom of the 7th. Daniel Hudson throwing in the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen. As Hill bats for Hernandez, who retires the 2 batters he was brought on to get out. Reds have action in their bullpen. Just now starting to throw is left-hander Manny Parra. I mean, you've got a right-hander here. You have Inciarte, but then you have right-handers Pollock and Goldschmidt, and there's a base hit by Hill. Hill came off the bench to get a base hit off Aroldis Chapman last night. Or actually, he was in the lineup and had a hit off Aroldis Chapman. So here comes Inciarte.
It'll be interesting to see how Chip Hale decides to play this. Tie game at home, leadoff hitter on, top of the order. 3 hot hitters coming up after him, and Pollock, Goldschmidt, and Peralta. Do you just go ahead and bunt him over? And can Inciarte execute the bunt?
He has 1 sacrifice so far this year. And he made that look as easy as it gets. And something the Reds could not do, Tucker Barnhart specifically could not do in the 7th inning with a runner at second base and nobody out.
Well, it really changes the inning entirely. When you ask a player to go up and sacrifice, he actually gets it down. When he doesn't get it down, I mean, the whole inning can implode on you, and that's what the Reds saw last inning. So now not an easy challenge for the next couple of hitters for Burke Badenhop.
All right, here's Pollock. 1 for 3 in the game. Arizona 3 of 5 with runners in scoring position. Of course, most of those came in that 5th inning. In the 1st and the 5th. One and 0. Badenhop falls behind. 2 balls and no strike.
Well, the one thing that Badenhop has done very well this year is kept the ball in the ballpark. He's given up 2 home runs in 40-plus appearances. And those 2 home runs came on back-to-back nights back in April.
It was in Milwaukee, wasn't it?
It was one in Milwaukee and one in Chicago. First Chicago, then Milwaukee at home against those 2 teams. And it was Barnhart that called the timeout.
Two and 0 to Pollock. It's a good 2-0 pitch. Down, off speed. Not what the hitter is hoping for. 2 and 0. Got to cut this one loose. Pollock can run. Well done by Suarez.
Suarez did a nice job of setting his feet really as he was fielding the ball because he knew he didn't have much time. Ball not hit very hard at all. It takes a big hop and comes right to him. But watch him before he fields it. He's like planting that back foot ready to go.
Well, options are this. You can walk Goldschmidt, bring in Parr to face Peralta, or you go right after Goldschmidt. They're both 3 for 3 today. That's granting a late timeout right there. An umpire does not have to grant the hitter time that late. But Vic Carapazza does for Goldschmidt. 2 away. Go ahead, run at third. Way outside, ball 1. Well, the Diamondbacks are not going to hit for Peralta. Not with the kind of year he's had. Peralta has 53 at-bats against left-handed pitching. If the Reds were making the decision not to pitch to Goldschmidt, who is second in the league in runs batted in, he has 79. Of course, for Peralta, the only player on his team with more runs batted in is Goldschmidt. The only player on the Reds with more runs batted in than Peralta is Frazier.
Can't get it much better than that last pitch right there. It looked like it was going to be off the plate to be a ball, a little comeback fastball. I mean, right on the bottom edge of the outside part of the strike zone. Good time to roll up another one of those.
3-3 game. Go ahead run at second. 2 outs into 7th. Oh boy, I didn't miss by much. 2-2. Badenhop wanted to thread the needle there for strike 3. Just a little bit low.
You know, when you foul off a pitch on the inner part of the plate like that, way off to the right side, you are waiting. And this is one reason why Goldschmidt is so good, is that he hits the breaking ball well. He doesn't really fool himself and get way out ahead trying to pull a fastball. So he's hitting it right out of the catcher's glove, and therefore a little bit late on that fastball.
Goldschmidt with the runners in scoring position is hitting .364. With 2 outs, he's hitting .410. And Badenhop paints the outside corner for strike 3. How about that, Berg Badenhop? Goldschmidt didn't like it. Top of the 8th inning. 3 runs, 11 hits for Arizona, 6 left on base. The Reds 3 runs, 7 hits, 4 left on. And taking over on the mound, the 4th pitcher used by Chip Hale today, a one-time starter and a mighty good one at that before arm injuries basically away. 2 years for Daniel Hudson, now on the comeback trail, working out of the bullpen. He will face Phillips, Votto, Bird here in the 8th inning. We saw Hudson in the series opener. Worked a perfect inning, and that came against the bottom part of the order, except for Phillips. He got Phillips on a ground ball for the final out to first base. Most of the action around Major League Baseball, almost all of it, east of the Rocky Mountains, and almost all of it east of the Mississippi River earlier today. A couple of games in a central time zone, but out east, Washington lost to Colorado. Milwaukee beating St. Louis. Cubs, we told you, sweep the Giants 4 in a row. There's a looper into center field. That'll be a base hit for Brandon. So the go-ahead man aboard, go ahead and run aboard here in the 8th inning. Told you the Cubs sweeping the Giants 4 in a row, and in the Bronx, Toronto sweeps the Yankees over the weekend. Mets lost, Nationals lost, Kansas City won today 5-4. The Dodgers and the Pirates tonight in Pittsburgh, where the Pirates are going for the sweep. Now, I'm not going to embarrass Jim Day here. Jim?
He was not directing that at me.
Oh, I had to have a little fun. I couldn't resist. You know that. Who would he be blowing that kiss to, though, Jim? You know Brandon as well as anybody around. Who's he having fun with down there in the dugout that he gets a base hit and he blows a kiss at him?
You know what? It changes on a daily basis. It could have been something that someone said this last half inning. It really does vary.
All right. There he goes. And a throw down by Saltalamacchia. That has been one of the real stories for the Reds this year, is the return to the running game for Brandon Phillips. He has a whopping 17 stolen bases in 18 attempts.
I think a lot of it comes with cunning. I mean, that was a great lead that he had there, even with the second baseman Owings trying to put his leg down. Watch as he's fielding the ball, he drops his knee in front of the plate. Or I thought it was in front of the base. It was not, as Phillips came roaring in there anyway.
Of course, Phillips 3 times has been a 20-20 player, 1 time a 30-30 player. And he had 3 years where he could have made it 6 seasons of 20-20, where he was knocking on the door in either home runs or RBIs and came up just short. But over the last couple of seasons, he's barely run at all. 2012, the last time he had a number of any significance, when he had 15. And now this year, 17. Total of 7 over the last 2 years. Well, let's see if Votto can get him in. Joey behind 1-2. Fouled off out of play. Votto sitting on 51 runs batted in. Been a while since Joey's knocked in a run. Been a long while. He did not have one in that Cardinals series before we came here, and looking for his first of this series. Fought that one off. That was a tough pitch to handle.
Well, his last RBI came in bunches. That was July the 28th against the St. Louis Cardinals. Had 3 in that ball game. A 4-0 Reds win. That was a home run that he hit that day.
1 ball and 2 strikes. Taken away. Well, Joey knocked in 3 runs in a game on July the 7th against the Washington Nationals. That was a game against Max Scherzer. He has knocked in 9 runs since then, and that's roughly over the last month. Of course, he's been getting on base all the time and walking a lot. Walking at an extraordinary level. 2-2 pitch. 3 balls and 2 strikes. But if you go back even further. Votto has knocked in 12 runs in almost 2 months. Here's a 3-2 pitch on Joey Votto. He will advance a runner. So why he didn't drive him in, that's a good job by Joey Votto to get that go-ahead run down to third base. Well done by Votto.
Well, it changes the at-bat for Marlon Byrd entirely when that runner's 90 feet away. Especially at this point in the ball game, tie game, 8th inning.
Now it's up to Marlon Byrd to get him in. Mike Harkey first will come trotting out of the Diamondbacks third base side dugout. Well, you love seeing that at bat there by Votto. Got behind in the count. Hudson's got good stuff. Was trying to run it in, pitch after pitch after pitch on Votto. Worked the count full. And granted, Joey would be the first to tell you, I mean, he wants to knock that guy in with a base hit right then and right there. But he does advance him at 90 feet after the stolen base.
So now the Diamondbacks bring their infield in. And their outfield will play normal depth, which against Marlon Byrd is fairly deep.
One and 0 on Marlon Byrd. And a strike called on the outside corner. Go ahead run at third in the 8th inning. 2-1 on Byrd. High and tight. Tapper foul wide of third.
tenth.
The 3-1 pitch. And there's ball 4. And now it's up to Jay Bruce. No activity in the Diamondbacks bullpen. This inning belongs to Daniel Hudson. He allowed the single to Phillips, who started. Brandon Stoll second. Votto advanced into third with a ground out. And after the walk to Marlon Byrd, The infield will remain in. They're not going to drop back to double play depth, it doesn't look like. Even the middle infield's not going to. And that adds a pile of points on a potential batting average when that infield draws in. Their angles become so very short. Ball one. It looked like a pitcher was away from him, but he fouled it off. It's big league play made by one of the scoreboard operators down there. It's big league. Very nice. Oh, and 1 to Jay Bruce.
Well, the other part of it, Tom, about the angles by bringing a hitter in. They always say you make a 300 hitter a 500 hitter when you bring the infield in. But with Jay Bruce, and they normally really load up that right side of the field with fielders. You don't do that here. So he's got a wide opening between first and second, something he normally never sees. Getting kind of anxious up there and chasing pitches that aren't his. I imagine if you're our Hudson on the mound, you're just staying down and away the same way and see if Bruce will chase another one.
Here's a 1-2 pitch coming to Jay Bruce. I'm not sure that Hudson has thrown Bruce a strike in this at bat.
I don't think he has.
The first pitch looked to be off the plate, up and away. And we know the pitch he swung at, that the strike 2, was well off the plate and down in the zone. Runner goes, and Bruce strikes out. Let's look at the 3 pitches that Jay Bruce swung at that at bat. Here's the first one. That's a borderline strike. Second one, not anywhere close. Good movement there by Hudson. And this is a strike 3 pitch, clearly never a strike. So it's up to Eugenio Suarez. Strike 1. Suarez doubled leading off the 7th inning and scored the tying run on the double by Ivan De Jesus Jr. Suarez knocked in a run on a fielder's choice in the 4th. He has also struck out. 1-2.
Boy, Hudson may have got away with one right there. Suarez may be geared for the fastball and out ahead of that one in a little bit.
Inning over. We're tied at 3.
Ohio. I'm Jim Day. We'd like to keep you updated on some of those young pitchers and hitters coming through the Reds system. It's our IGS Bringing the Energy, and John Lamb was one of the 3 left-handers that came over in the Cueto deal from the Kansas City Royals organization. And his 3 starts, you look at the numbers there. This is after last night, 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, and a 3-1 win for Louisville. They say his velocity was anywhere from 67 to 93 mile per hour last night, so he really likes to change speeds. And Amir Garrett at high A in Daytona today, Jim, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, walked only 1 batter, and struck out 3. So a couple of lefties dealing, and I know the Left-Handed Pitchers Association happy with those numbers.
Well, you're not kidding about that, Jim Day. You can never have enough left-handers. And that's what Brian Price is thinking right now, because he's sending Manny Parra out onto the mound. DeSclafani went 6, Badenhop in the 7th. And now Manny Parra. At least to start this inning, it looks like Reds have activity in the bullpen, and J.J. Hoover getting loose.
David Peralta leads things off, and it's 1 ball and 1 strike. Base hit.
Boy, have a career day, David Peralta, and it is a career day. That is his 4th hit of the afternoon. And that ties a career high. 3 singles and a double.
Saltalamacchia down a strike. So 7 hits the Diamondbacks have today, combined from their numbers 3 and 4 batters. Goldschmidt 3 hits, a run scored, a run batted in. Peralta 4 hits, a run scored, a run batted in. Saltalamacchia drove in a run, which at the time gave Arizona a 3-2 lead, a single in the 5th inning. Second time Peralta has 4 hits in a game. And obviously this is his first full year in the big leagues. Both of those have happened this year. The other against San Diego. Where the Reds are heading at the conclusion of this one. Straight up in the air, a mile high. Hamilton in to get it. Very short flight from Phoenix to San Diego. It's an easy car ride. Not much in between the two cities, a whole pile of desert. And you'll drive through some mountains once you pass into the California border right before reaching San Diego. They can be a little bit treacherous, especially at nighttime.
Don't they have those remote speed radar detection devices out there in the desert?
I don't know. Never thought about it.
I know you have.
I put the ball on the tee for you. I mean, come on. You know, the only times that I used to drive is when I was working out here. My family would go over early. Kids were really, really little, and Polly and the kids would go over in the day, and then I would have to go meet them after a night game. So I'd make that drive solo really late. Here's a pitch to Jake Lamb. Nope, throw to first. If you don't mind it, that's the best time to drive.
Well, I'm not sure you want to break down in the middle of the desert in the middle of the night.
There's a lot of truth to that. And it is, boy, you are way out there, seemingly in the middle of nowhere. That's why I say if you don't mind it. Because, I mean, that's certainly part of the factor. Parra paying a lot of attention to Peralta over there. He only has 7 attempts all year long. He has 5 steals successfully.
Now he's got one of the best base running guys down there at first base coaching him, Dave McKay. He's been around for a long time.
He seems to be wherever Tony La Russa is.
Yeah.
That's not exclusively true, but it's not far from the truth.
I mean, he was Mark McGwire's personal batting practice pitcher, as I recall. So you could probably say Dave McKay's given up more miles and home run than anybody in baseball history.
That's right. He began his coaching career back in 1983 in the Oakland system. That's swing and a miss, and that's when Tony La Russa, when he came over a year later, really took a liking to McKay. And unbelievably, from 1984 to 2011, nearly 30 consecutive seasons, he was on Tony La Russa's coaching staff. 84 to 2011. When La Russa retired, McKay went to the Cubs for a couple of years. And now in his second season with the Diamondbacks. His 32nd overall on a major league coaching staff. Makes his year-round home right here in Arizona. 2-2 pitch. Full count. Sinking liner, a base hit. So the lefties in this inning have done the damage against Parra.
I thought it was interesting. Manny Parra paid so much attention to Peralta at first base that even on the 3-2 pitch, the Diamondbacks did not decide to try to run right there, or else he would have been standing at third base right now.
Well, the Diamondbacks have their closer, Ziegler, getting ready in their bullpen.
Now, J.J. Hoover has been warming up down in the Reds bullpen. I would presume that he is ready to go. There's Ziegler. He's the closer.
Liner caught by Bruce. Owings is out. Peralta on to third, 2 away in the inning.
Well, Owings has hit it hard a couple of times and nothing to show.
Well, Brian Price will make his way out of the dugout. Ahmed, the shortstop, is coming up. And Brian will take the ball from Manny Parra. 3-3 game. We're in the 8th inning. 2 on, 2 out. Back in a moment. Diamondbacks will be in town. The Reds are honoring Hall of Famer Tony Perez. The first 30,000 fans receive a replica Tony Perez statue. That is a statue that will be unveiled, by the way, before the game. A special on-field pregame ceremony. It's presented by La Rosas. J.J. Hoover to face Ahmed with a go-ahead run at second base and 2 outs here in the 8th inning of a 3-3 game. Reds and the Diamondbacks, you may remember, played a 15-inning game a season ago. Only bring that up because this matchup occurred with the game on the line. Diamondbacks batting in the 15th inning at Great American Ballpark, very late night, and Ahmed delivered the goods with a base hit, game-winning hit, July the 28th of last season. Two and 0. Very good numbers for Hoover. To a pitch in the air, Jay Bruce waits, and Hoover takes care of the inning. Reds about in the ninth, tied at 3. Save big money at Menards on all your home improvement needs. And by your local Toyota dealers, proud sponsor of the Cincinnati Reds. That's pretty much what you're staring at, Chris, if you were going to make that drive this afternoon for about 4.5 hours.
Staring right into the sun the entire way. Are those the jumping cactus?
I think that is. Hard to tell with that sun kind of beating on it right there, but yeah.
Don't want to get too
jumping
close to
cholla, they call it.
Well, if you're a right-hander, hitting this guy is like sticking your hand into a cactus. Because he can freeze you with a way down and around Laredo delivery, and he's having a pretty good year as Brad Ziegler. Does not do it with an overpowering fastball or a trick pitch, just in a very unusual release point and a low arm angle.
All right, DeJesus Jr., Tucker Barnhart, and then the pitcher spot, 7, 8, 9. DeJesus has had a nice day. A couple of hits and 3 at bats, knocked in a tying run with a double to left center in the 7th inning. When Brian Price came out and made the double switch, or made the pitching change to summon Hoover, he did not make a double switch. So Hoover came on for one batter. Right back to the mound. Of course, J.J. worked an inning last night. And that is the only game that he has pitched in since he gave up the home run which tied the game Wednesday night to Matt Carpenter in the 8th inning against St. Louis. Jumbo, should we go to extra innings and or to the bottom of the ninth, I beg your pardon, and you have Orioles should the Reds take the lead. 1-1 to Barnhart. One of the biggest plays in this game, really offensively for the Reds. I mean, you talk about two chances where you don't get many of them. They had tied the game at 3. De Jesus had doubled. Barnhart was asked to put down a sacrifice bunt. He popped it up for an out. The Reds would not score in that inning. And then with runners on the corners in a tie game, Jay Bruce struck out swinging against Daniel Hudson. Ziegler having to duck underneath that bat.
Yeah, normally when you see a bat or a part of the bat in the field, it is the part of the bat. That time, that's the entire bat. Because if you break a bat and part of the bat goes into the field and interferes with the player making the play, the responsibility, no responsibility on all on the part of the batter. But if it's the entire bat, you can be called for interference.
Away.
Pinch hitting for J.J. Hoover, number 55, Skip Schumacher.
Schumacher looks at strike one. Arizona, if you're taking a peek ahead to the bottom of the ninth, would have the pitcher spot and then the top of the order, Inciarte and Pollock. Any further than that, it's Goldschmidt. Boy, just a ground ball machine is Mr. Ziegler. 3 of them to take care of the Reds in order. Bottom of the ninth, we're tied at 3. We call it Reds Live. It's presented by Ray St. Clair Roofing. Tomorrow night from beautiful Petco Park in downtown San Diego. David Holmberg against the veteran Ian Kennedy. A lot of rumors about Kennedy. A lot of rumors about a lot of Padres being traded at the deadline, and none of them were traded. A.J. Peeler, their young general manager, Preeler, and everybody thinking that he might have to dismantle what he just put together during the offseason. Bringing in all kinds of guys, spending a pile of money.
Replacing a manager.
It's a funny world we live in. I was just out in San Diego, and magazine sitting around one of the places where we were. It was an article last February about the hot shot phenom general manager of the San Diego Padres. And all the wheel and a deal, and they referred to him as a rock star in this article in San Diego magazine. And it's a funny world we live in, man. Instead of taking a look at the long body of work, we're so accustomed these days to looking at what have you done right here, right now. You're a star 1 minute, a bum the next. I mean, all those moves that Preeler has made, now maybe they work out next year. Not too good this year.
It's all about scoreboard.
That's exactly right. But it doesn't have to be scoreboard just for today. You don't have to crown a guy a star before they ever play a game. And nor do you have to call him a bum because they have a bad week or a bad month or a bad year. Yasmani Tomas, a ground out in the first pitch facing Jumbo Diaz. Trying to figure out where Tomas is going to play for this team moving forward. I mean, he's going to be a regular player. Question is, where? He's had pretty good numbers in his rookie season. Jumbo retires Tomas on the first pitch, and here's Inciarte. 3-3, last of the ninth. Two out. Well, now you're getting into the meat of this Arizona order. Jumbo trying to just take care of the number 2 hitter, Pollock, and not have to worry about the guy on deck or the guy after him. That'll take care of Pollock on one pitch. Jumbo, a 6-pitch inning. We're off to a little OT here today. jerky all season long. Jack Link's beef jerky. Feed your wild side. 3-3 game. Josh Colmenter, one-time starter for the Arizona Diamondbacks, will take over on the mound. So the Reds 4 up, 9 down in extra innings, losing their most recent contest to the Cardinals.
Leading off for
Diamondbacks 7 up, 6 down.
Fielder Billy Hamilton.
All right, top of the order for the Reds. Billy Hamilton to be followed by Brandon, and then Joey. Colmenter was in the rotation and then was sent to the bullpen June the 18th. Ever since they moved him to the bullpen, he has thrown the ball exceptionally well. 5 earned runs in 23 1/3 innings pitched. That's a 1.93 earned run average.
Yeah, I don't think you could get 2 different arm release points in the last 2 pitchers than you have with Brad Ziegler nearly scraping his knuckles on the ground, and Colmenter coming just about from the Arctic right over the top.
Second baseman Brandon Phillips.
And he gets an out of Billy Hamilton, chasing a little changeup going away from him.
Talked about Colmenter being moved to the bullpen after having his issues as they started.
The advantage of having a guy like Colmenter down there, even though he struggled as a starter, he can go give you some innings in an extra inning game if you need that.
Yeah, his last 2 relief outings, he's pitched almost 9 full innings in 2 games. 1 ball and 1 strike. Ball and 2 strikes to Brandon. Very odd delivery, isn't it? From Colmenter.
You know what? How do you teach that? Sometimes a guy picks up a baseball and just starts throwing a certain way. You just let him go. You know what we did not do today, which we should and have to do, Tom?
What's that?
Is to wish happy birthday to my tomorrow partner in San Diego and in Los Angeles, Jim Kelch.
Happy birthday, Jimbo.
Kelchy.
All right.
I don't know if he is already in San Diego awaiting the Reds' arrival. Maybe en route. But we certainly wish him a happy birthday.
Indeed. Good man.
Here's another look at the over-the-top motion of Josh Colmenter. One game over 500 in his major league career wins and loss-wise. He's been a starter for most of them, although he has spent 1 year in the bullpen, and that's a nice play by Goldschmidt. What else is new?
Second one he's made just like that today.
Baseman
Brandon taking an extra long look at Goldschmidt after he makes his play down there. Of course, Brandon has done that to countless batters along the way.
So now Votto, 0 for 3 in a game, has walked and scored a run. Reds top of the order, gone in order. Diamondbacks will bat at the bottom of the 10th in a tie game. From the MLB playoff races, the very latest from college football, and the NFL preseason gets underway tonight in the Buckeye State Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. Watch Fox Sports Live on Fox Sports 1. And streaming live on Fox Sports News. So I guess today is officially the start of football season with the Hall of Fame game. Sad news from the NFL world today. Legendary player. A lot of us in the 50-something generation and younger came to know him even better as a broadcaster, even though, make no mistake, he was an incredible player. Frank Gifford sadly passed away today at 84 years young. And certainly our thoughts and prayers to those who knew him. He had many, many friends across this great country, all over the world. He was one of the announcers growing up when it was a really big deal, Monday Night Football.
Boy, you're not kidding about that. Now 1 inning for Jumbo, and now Ryan Matthews.
Well, they've got a fan down here that I guess comes to every game. He's like a personal cheerleader for Paul Goldschmidt. He stands up and leads a chant. He says Gold, they say Schmidt, and then he leads the Let's Go D-backs every time Goldschmidt comes up.
Well, at least Paul is spending his money wisely.
Yes.
You could use one of those guys.
Well, I need a lot of them.
We could start with one.
It's a good start. Ryan Matthews comes on, taking over for Jumbo, who only needed 6 pitches to get through the last half inning, and that's on the heels of using J.J. Hoover for 1 batter. Well, we don't know. We're not privy to perhaps something that might be going on down there for J.J., where he said, you know, hey, look, I can get you a hitter or two. But the Reds did not bat for Diaz in the top of the 10th. And like we said, he only threw 6 pitches in the last inning. Three and 2 on Goldschmidt. He draws a walk. Been a perfect day for the batter Peralta. 4 for 4. Second time he's had 4 hits in a game in his career, both of them this season. He has a 5-hit game for the first time ever. Wow. Well, he comes up there swinging out lumber now.
Got a nice level swing. Matthews digging himself a hole here in the 10th. Matthews is firing it up there with pretty good velocity, 94 miles an hour, our flamethrower, but unjammed on the ground into right field is that fastball by David Peralta.
I'm a little surprised at Diamondbacks. Now, we don't know if Saltalamacchia can bunt. I mean, basically, he's not been playing in the National League for most of his career.
Right.
We haven't seen him. We know he does not have a sacrifice this year. The Reds believe he's up there to bunt. And they ask him to bunt, and he fouls away. I was starting to say I'm a little surprised that Chip Hale doesn't consider sending somebody up there who does bunt regularly. Well, you have middle infielders in Hernandez and Romack on your bench. You have a backup catcher still sitting down there.
That's a good point.
I mean, I don't know. Puts a bunt down.
Boy, oh boy.
And gets it done.
You know, Matthews had a chance to get that guy at third base, but you have to make that decision before you get to the baseball. I mean, really, what do you have to lose right there by going to third base? You have to think about this ahead of time. You're charging hard. He gets it, and if he turns and fires, he's got plenty of time to get that runner at third base. And if you don't get him, what's the worst thing that can happen? You have bases loaded and 1 out.
And you're going to have bases loaded. Well, you have bases loaded, nobody out.
Nobody
You're
out.
going to have
That's
bases
right.
loaded to second and 1 out.
I mean, you still have still got the runner 90 feet away. Those are the kind of things, though, you can't decide unless you've thought it through ahead of time.
Sure.
And you know the guy's going to bunt, so you ask yourself, all right, what kind of chance am I willing to take and make a play at third base? A forced play at third base.
Saltalamacchia got the bunt down. So, you know, they asked him to do a job, and he was at least able to put the ball on the ground. So the intentional walk to Lamb. The walk to start the inning. Reds with 8 walk-off losses. Time for the most in Big League Baseball. Here comes Owings. And everybody in. Infield in, outfield in. Goldschmidt, certainly a better than average runner. Not a burner, but you're talking about a guy who has nearly 20 stolen bases on the year. He can run a little bit. He carries a winning run with 1 out here in the bottom of the 10th inning. Matthews against Chris Owings. Owings has hit the ball right on the screws in 3 straight at bats. First time up, he tapped out to bottom. He hit the line drive and almost knocked over to Jesus at third. He caught it. He has lined out to right twice since. One and 0 to count. Game over. Diamondbacks have won the series. Final score of 4-3. Reds Live is coming up.